This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone and welcome to the latest episode of All Time 11 right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, your host as always. Delighted to be joined this week by the former Wraith, Aberdeen, Gretna and Queen of the South midfielder, Stevie Tosh. Stevie, it's a pleasure to have you on, mate. Thanks very much for coming on.
No, thanks very much for asking, Scott. It's a pleasure, pal.
No worries. How you been? You all right?
Aye, not too bad. Putting on lots of weight and losing lots of hair, but apart from that, all good.
What's lockdown been like? Like, what you been kind of up to?
It's kind of been strange. I work for an oil company up in Aberdeen. I have done for the last sort of 9 to 10 years, but I've always kept the house in Kirkcaldy. So
Right, okay.
with lockdown happening, I've basically come home. You know, it's the longest I've spent in Kirkcaldy, so I've been able to spend a lot of time with what I call my kids. Unfortunately, they're, as I say, my boy, he's 16 today. My daughter, she's 20, so they're not really kids any longer, but it's they seem to still know where their dad's wallet is, put it that way.
Brilliant. Just to talk briefly about your kind of career. You talked there about Kirkcaldy. You played for Wraith for a wee while as well. What was your kind of memories playing at kind of your hometown club?
Probably the most disappointing bit of my career, if I'm being honest, which saddens me.
Okay.
No, I tell that to the boys where I'm golfing or having a beer or that, and I left St Johnstone to go to Wraith, signed for Jimmy Nichol, and just thought this is going to be great. Couldn't wait to tell my late dad that, I'd signed for Wraith, etc. And it just didn't happen, pal. It was just one of these things where maybe I was trying too hard. Kirkcaldy's a type of place where, believe it or not, they pick me around the locals. I didn't particularly like to see the locals doing well. And right? It's something, I'll be honest, it was something at the end of my career that really saddened me that that nothing happened really at Wraith. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't all bad, but that I probably was looking to do more, and it was just one of the things, pal. But it is something that sort of I've got a bit of regret with, that the Wraith chapter wasn't as successful as some of the others.
Mm-hmm. As well as that, you can have a good spell at Aberdeen as well. Who were the kind of good kind of mentors when you're coming through there? Like, it was obviously a big club, but like, it must have been some very good managers that were kind of there for you as well.
Well, I think obviously I think I was Stevie Parsons' first sign. I love Stevie to bits, and without being too disrespectful for a bit, but I'm not sure if Stevie maybe been on the drink at the time. He wanted Paul Tosh and ended up with Steve Tosh. So it was just, it was, I signed for Pelly, and then we obviously had Jimmy Calderwood to come in. And I'll be honest, Jimmy Calderwood opened my eyes. He was a fantastic manager, and I was probably a senior player by the time I went there, but I was still new to that level. So I remember being at Falkirk and Ian McCall called me in after training. I'd only been at Falkirk 5 months, and saying that they'd accepted a bid for a Premier League club. And I thought, well, I'll be honest, I thought, could it have been a Motherwell or a Kilmarnock? And something that out. And when he told me it was Aberdeen, I remember it was a Tuesday, and he was basically saying, but we don't want you to go. But I couldn't get in the boot room quick enough to get my trainers, my flip-flops, my boots. I thought, because when Aberdeen come calling, not taking nothing away from Falkirk, but you're not staying at Falkirk because it was at the old Brockville at the time as well. You're not giving up that opportunity to sign for what is the third biggest in Scotland to stay at Falkirk. So, it was good times. It was the first time me and the ex-wife now, and the kids said, my son was born up there actually, but it was the first time we moved away from Kirkcaldy, and it was a brilliant setting. A city that's still a hold dear in my heart just now.
Brilliant. And can I spell at Livingston as well, but can I just want to touch on quickly just Gretna? Like, obviously Gretna nowadays, we don't look back with kind of positive memories, but what was it like to be in the middle of all that? Like, obviously I was a team that done remarkable at the time, but what was it like for you, like being in the middle of
that? Great, bad, up, down. Brooks was brilliant, but and God rest his soul. But it was, and I think if you speak to like say James Grady and some of the other senior players, it was Brooks's ball, and it didn't suit Brooks. That was it. And things were great. We had a great squad of boys. a lot of senior players, but that mixed in with some of the younger players that were coming through, you know, and there was a great mix there. But with a manager that wasn't as strong, you know, the fact of the matter was that with a manager that took a tiny club to a Scottish Cup final, and let's be honest, he's never had a job since, that kind of tells a story. And Rowan was Rowan, and Dave Irons was great, but if I'm being honest, it all took a turn for me. They brought in a guy, Mick Wadsworth.
Right.
And they brought in this guy, Mick Wadsworth, and honestly, the man's an absolute clown. And it was just, you know, and I think if you speak to the vast majority, you'll get the very same thought process on this man. And he was just an absolute clown. And it was very obvious early on that he was director of football. He was wanting rid of Rowan, but he wanted some of our senior players to fire his bullets for him. Of course, we told him that wouldn't happen. If he wanted rid of him, get rid of him, but we're not going to do it for him. So, you know, we've seen the writing on the wall. Marcel Alan Main, Derek Townsley, James Grady, you know, the list's endless. You know, the boys that were prepared to maybe talk a wee bit up in the dressing room. We knew that we weren't going to survive long under Mick. But to take Gretna, listen, the best supported club in Scotland by a country mile, and people laugh when they hear this, but the fact that it's a population of about 2,000, and we used to get 2,500 every home game, you were that one out type thing, you know. So great times, thoroughly enjoyed it, liked working under Brooks, enjoyed the football with the boys, but there was politics at the football club, unfortunately, and you know, to think it cost Brooks an absolute arm and a leg, and it just didn't sit right well with us near the end, to be honest with you, Paul.
And that wasn't your only Scottish Cup final. You played for Queen of the South as well in that remarkable season in 07-08 when you come up against Rangers. Like, that must have been just one of the highlights of your career. And taking, obviously, the semi-final against Aberdeen will be a memory, but how were you kind of feeling then? Like, how tough was it?
It was crazy, you know. You played for so long and never really done particularly well in a Scottish Cup. I'd been to a semi-final with Livingston in 2000 and we got humped 3-0 by Hibs. So then to get there with Gretna in 2006, and to be honest, the way I see it, I've won 2 Scottish Cup finals. We lost on penalty kicks to Hearts, and we got beat 3-2 by a Rangers team that 10 days earlier had played Zenit St Petersburg in the UEFA Cup final. And ironically enough, the funny story about that is six of us had went down to Manchester, so three of us had tickets for the game. I'll not tell you what three, but me, Neil Mcfarlane, and I think it was Neil Scally, we had tickets for the game. We'd actually played Gordon Chisholm had arranged a friendly against Hearts under 20s at the Orem, which was Heriot Watt at the time. And the reason he had done that is because our season had finished about 2 or 3 weeks before. You know, so we couldn't get games. So we went across to Spain for 3 or 4 days. We'd come back. It was a training exercise, but it was, you know, it was more bevy than anything else. We'd come back. We'd got a couple of days off, and then Chiz had tried to arrange games. And I remember he arranged a game for the Wednesday, and Jimmy Thompson was our captain. But I guess I was the team leader in the sense that So the couple of come to me and they said, "We've got tickets for the cup final," and I'm thinking, so that, you know, and so Chiz had made the kick-off 1 o'clock, so I had to go to him and say, "Chiz, any chance you can change it to 10 o'clock, and any chance you can start this 6 and take us off after an hour, because we were taking 2 cars." And we did. We jumped into 2 cars. I took my car, and I'm not sure who took the other car, and 6 of us went down to Manchester 10 days before the final. And as I say, it was a scouting reason we went down there for. It was nothing else apart from a scouting reason. But no, great times. To think 10 days later, we gave them a fright of their lives and ran them really close in a Scottish Cup final. It was just amazing. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but we went back at night, back down to Dumfries, and there was a dinner put on for us in a hotel by the club. And then the next day, they'd arranged an open top bus to go around the town on the Sunday, and we went to a civic reception with at the new swimming pool, and we thought honestly there was a handful of folk hanging out about outside when we went in, and we came out an hour later, and the streets were 10, 20 deep, and it was just, it honestly was amazing. You know, we went right through the town of Dumfries, and I went first day. I don't like that. I don't think you should ever reward failure, but it was just to see. There's a picture that will stick with me evermore in my mind. You look at the back of the bus, and there's about 5,000 walking at the back of the bus up to Palmerston, And the time we got to Palmerston was actually chocker. There was more in Palmerston that day on the Sunday, just to see us walk around the pitch, than what had been in for the Dundee quarter-final game. So it just showed you what it meant to the town. It was it was something special, you know, to take Queen of the South into Europe. It's never going to be done again, or if it is, I don't think it'll be in my lifetime, pal.
Brilliant. But obviously you played with some great players in your career, so make a wee start with your all-time 11. You got a formation in mind for how you're going to set up?
I'm very continental these days, you know. I was brought up on 4-4-2, but you can't play that these days. Nobody wins trophies with 4-4-2, so I'm going to. It's been really difficult. You know, the boys that I've left out, I can't believe I've left them out of team, but I'm going to go for a 4-2-3-1. You know, okay. I'm going to go 4-2-3-1 and think that my team would do all right. I tell you what, this team that I'm picking today would do very well in the SPL just now, put it that way.
Brilliant. And as well as that, are you putting yourself in?
No, I wouldn't get a game in this team, Paul.
Brilliant. But we'll make a wee start. Who are you going to have as your goalkeeper for the team?
Well, my goalkeeper was a toughie, and I know everybody will say the same. It was probably between three. I had Sanchez, two at Livingston in particular. We had Neil Alexander there when we played in the first division. Now, Neil was doing really well. You know, I think that he went on to play at Cardiff and Rangers. You know, it speaks testament for young Neil. I call him young Neil because he was a young boy at Arbroath when I was there a long, long time ago. Right. And then we signed Javi Sanchez Broto, obviously for Broto come in, and again, what a fantastic goalkeeper and a really good lad. But I'm going to plump for a guy that I played twice with in my career. I played with him initially at St Johnstone and latterly at Gretna. I'm going to go with Alan Main. You know, you never want to go on Alzo's bad side. So I think I'll stick him in here. And fantastic goalkeeper. You know, he'd have been great just now because he was fantastic with the ball at his feet. Yeah. Wasn't the tallest, probably like Andy Gorham statuesque with the fact that he was maybe 5'11" to 6 foot, but great build on him. And, you know, when Alan tells you to do something, I remember particularly at St Johnstone because I was a younger boy, when Alan told you to do something, you done it. So my goalkeeper in the team would be, I'll plump for Alan Main.
Brilliant. But was he a good shot stopper as well? Or just
everything, you know, he was just, again, he was very aggressive when I was at St Johnstone. Bullied you, scared them at St Johnstone, I'll be honest. Never really got to know the right Alan at St Johnstone. He was a quiet guy, very unassuming off the park, but, you know, on the park, Tasmanian devil would become on that park, even on the training park, and got to know him a wee bit more at Gretna because we probably had two entities at Gretna. We had the older guys that were senior pros and then the younger guys that were coming through. So the older guys probably stuck more together, you know, families and etc. Yeah. But knew a bit more of Alan for there. We travelled quite a bit because he stayed at Muffet, so we'd be one of the first ones on the bus wherever we're heading. But no, just an all-round fantastic goalkeeper, Scott.
Brilliant. And we'll move on to your right back. Who's in there?
Probably one of the best players I've ever played with. This guy shouldn't be right back. He could be centre half, left centre half, left back, centre midfield. And I'll tell you a story about him before I tell you who it was. We're across in Holland with Jimmy Calderwood. And Jimmy Calderwood likes to do a thing where he gets the projector. So we're in a hotel. And Jimmy Calderwood would say, he would get up, like what you asked me, what formation you're playing. So 4-4-2. And you had to look for your name. And that was where Jimmy told you he thought you could play within a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
And then he would put 4-3-3, 3-5-2, 2-4-4, his favourite formation of everything. This guy played in every single position, according to Jimmy, in every single team. And he went on to have a fantastic career with Cardiff for 10, 12 years. Yeah. Came back, injury prone like nothing else, you know, but just one of the most quietest guys I've ever met until you got him in the Magaluf at the end of the season, and he was just a maniac. But my right back's Kevin McNaughton, and he was, wee Sammer was just absolutely unbelievable. Just had everything, pace. You know, if it was a wet day, he would only be about 10 stone wet if it was a wet day, but he could play centre half. You know, you could play him centre midfield. And he was just an absolute fantastic football player, and he probably should have played at a higher level even in Cardiff, but he was just top man. Great player.
He was a really good player. As you said, he was quite unlucky with injuries as well, but you could tell any time the class was there. But we'll move on to left back. Who's in there?
again, a guy that played with earlier on in my career. And, you know, I've probably got stories for a lot of these guys. This is a guy that Alec Totten tells you he found, but Alec Totten was prepared to sell him for St Johnstone to Forfar for about $6,000. Sturrock kept him and sent him for about 1.8 million about 3 seasons later to Blackburn. So, Callum Davidson,
Right, okay.
Sport Billy, just didn't matter what sport he played, Callum just excelled at. I think he played a +2 at golf. I remember we went to, just unbelievable. Him and his wife, Sport Billy and Sport Wilma, as we used to call him. Just, you know, honestly, just great guy, Callum. Him and Lorna, fantastic, and just he worked on everything. This was a guy that went to university. That's hence the reason that he wasn't in St Johnstone's first team right at the start. He come and then Sturrock started him, and just what a player. And the fact that he done so well at Blackburn, I believe he'd done that well at Blackburn after even 6 to 8 months there, Arsenal were really looking to take him, and that was when Arsenal had your Nigel Winterburns, etc. But good on the ball, strong, quick. Strange to see him as a manager, because I just can't imagine Callum fun out with anybody. So,
is that right?
But I'd have Kevin Norton at right back, and I'd have Callum Davidson at left back.
Brilliant. We'll move into centre back. We'll start off with the left side of centre back.
I guess I've not got, it's a centre back pair, pal. You know, these two are both predominantly on the right side, but
right, okay.
And it's funny as anything, because all the centre backs I've played with, 2 of the worst football players you'll ever see. Couldn't pass water, never mind the ball. But I want my defenders to defend. Yeah. You know, I think defenders are there to keep clean sheets. If defenders keep clean sheets, you've got a chance of winning a game. It sounds silly, but you try to drum that into kids from an early age. If you don't lose a goal, you can't get beat. So my 2 centre halves, one's Russell Anderson, you know,
right, okay.
Mr. Aberdeen. I remember playing against Russell and I thought, you're poor. You're a poor player. You know, and it was when I got really friendly with Russell and he played. And I think it was due to the fact that Ebby Scoville, for some reason, thought Russell was a right back.
Right,
Never ever a right back. Russell was a centre half. It was pure and simple. All he wanted to do was stop the ball going in the back of the net. And by the way, he was very good at it. You know, again, another guy that's so strong-willed. You know, the cruciate injuries he went through, and they come back time and time again. I couldn't imagine how hard that must be. And he was just a great captain. He didn't shout. Again, he just led by example. He showed you his expectations on the park. So Russell would be one of them. And I've got to put my big mate in. You know, I was his. I was his chauffeur for a good period of time. But Big Marv will obviously be the other centre back. Never good enough to play for Rangers, so that one still surprises me yet. But I love Big Marv. I met him obviously when I joined Wraith Rovers. He hadn't long come across for Trinidad. Yeah. First training session, he didn't know my name. He was whistling for the ball, and I thought, "What are you whistling at?" Yeah. And he wouldn't talk to you. He just wouldn't talk. But obviously, you know, as my career went on at Wraith Rovers, me and him left. I used to get called into the manager's office quite often on a Thursday at Wraith Rovers and be accused of being in Jackie O's. It was a disco in Kirkcaldy on a Wednesday night quite often. And it was actually, I'd been banned for Jackie O's for about 5 years, so it wasn't even like I could get in. But again, going back to Wraith Rovers, and Kirkcaldy folk used to report me. And I remember this Thursday I got asked by Kenny Black to go in to see Peter Henderson, the manager, and again I'm thinking, here we go again. Yeah, I noticed that Big Marvin was staying back and Alex Burns, and we went in and Peter told us that we were being sold that day. Wraith Rovers had to get the 3 of us sold, and he couldn't tell us who we were getting sold to. So the 3 of us had to go up to my house in Kirkcaldy and spend the whole day there before we then were told at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon that the 3 of us were going to Livingston. So, you know, we went across to Livingston, so me and Marv travelled every day, and he didn't drive at the time, the big fella.
Right.
And to be honest, that was when you used to need to pay money to get across the bridge and back again.
Yeah.
He never used to take money with me any day either, I'll tell you, Scott. And he's never repaid me for any pet. No matter how much money he made, he's never paid me any petrol money yet. So, but the big man, we went to Livingston together, and then later on in our careers, I got him down to Queen of the South for a season as well. You know, we're looking for another centre half, and I got him to come. And so Big Marv would be the other one. You know, and all joking aside, when I say he wasn't good enough to play for Rangers, Marvin was one of Rangers' best players because he had Barry Ferguson playing in front of him. Everybody tells me Marvin can't pass. Marvin didn't need to pass. Barry just went and took the ball off him and done the magic. Marvin was there to defend, hence the reason he's considered a legend at Ibrox, you know, and quite a lot so on. A fantastic fella, still speak to him yet. So, yeah, that'd be my goalkeeper and back four, mate.
Big Marvin seems just like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He just seems to be just lovely.
He's lovely till you try and get a drink out of him, pal.
Is that right?
Believe me, he's still got his first pound.
Is that right?
Oh, he's horrific. He's horrific. Brilliant. He just laughs about it as well. You know, it's funny because my daughter was only about 2 weeks old that time when we went up to my house in Kirkcaldy. So my daughter's been brought up with him. She's 20 now, obviously, and my son as well. And you know, just Uncle Marvin for a bit, and I'm thinking, you know, and I'm like, Marv just laughed and loved it, you know. But he used to come to my house at Christmas and very close to the family. Just as you say, a really nice fella. You know, he would do a lot of things for you. But no, he's top man, Marv.
Brilliant. We'll move on to the midfield. We'll start off with your left-sided centre midfielder. Who's in there?
So I'm only going to go two in there. And again, it's a partnership rather than either side. I'm going to go with a dog. I'm going to go with a dog in there, kind of like what I was. It was going to do the hard work. And then I'm going to go with a ball player, pal. So rather than them being left side, right side, you know, I'll probably go with the dog first. And I thought long and hard about this. I thought, you know, this boy's going to get in the team in front of Scott Severn, who's a really good football player, but superb, going about working, great attitude. He's going to get in front of a guy called Marcus Heikkinen that I played with Aberdeen at the Finnish internationalist. That was, again, superb, really technical, but dogged, you know, and hard working. He's getting in front of Kenny Black, who taught me so much when I was at Wraith Rovers. Getting in front of a guy called Attila Sekerleogu, who I played with at St Johnstone, who I've never seen a boy being able to hit 80-yard passes with a right foot or a left foot. But the guy I'm going to stick in there as a dog is a guy that probably changed my game in the end. I'd probably adapted my game to be a hard-working midfielder for so long, and probably didn't take on board that I could actually play a wee bit more football. I was actually a better football player than what I gave myself credit for, because I wanted to work for the team. But this guy allowed me to be the football player because he was the dog, as we call him. And hence the reason we got a Scottish Cup final, hence the reason we run Rangers close. And a big fella with the worst hairdo I've ever seen in Scottish football is Neil McFarlane. He just, just a joy. I don't know what was Neil. He couldn't run. He couldn't run, but he seemed to be all over the park for 90 minutes, and he would get. He never tackled, but he'd break the game up so well. I don't think I've seen Neil tackle. I don't think I've actually seen Neil header a ball. I don't think I've seen Neil sprint, but he just got in the right place at the right time, and then done the simple thing. He allowed the football players to go and play, and that's a sign of a really good. You know, I think an example of that's probably Paul Lambert when he won the Champions League with Dortmund. You know, you've probably never seen Paul going to tackle or headering, but he just seemed to win the ball and get to Andreas Müller. And Paul probably tells that story like that himself. And if that's what you do to get a Champions League winners medal, I tell you what, it's not the worst thing to do, is it? You know,
Definitely.
So, and it's something that young kids need to learn. It's not just about scoring goals; it's about the team. You know, and Neil McFarlane epitomises everything in a team that where you can't just have 11 Lionel Messis. You need a Neil McFarlane in there somewhere as well. And you know, he was fantastic to play with, a really good guy. And he was one of that Queen of the South Six that headed down to Manchester as well. Amazing. So I definitely was the big goon for the noon, as we used to call him. So,
brilliant.
So he'll play there, and he will allow my other centre midfielder to go and play. And this will be a name that you certainly wouldn't have had done in your team. Played with a guy at Livingston who we brought in when we went to the Premier League, SPL. And the guy he played with Malaga, and he played in La Liga. And never heard of him. Never heard of this guy, you know, but we'd seen how certain other the Spanish boys, had made an impact in the first division. And we went to Holland for 10 days pre-season. And this guy, never seen nothing like it. A guy called Francesco Quino. Right. And he was, I believe, if you check him, I think in the 2000 and, what were in the Premier League? 2002, I think it was.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wore number 12 for us. Quino on his back. I didn't even know what to say about this boy. There was nothing he couldn't do.
Yeah.
Technical ability was just unbelievable. The way I say it, he could keep a ball in a telephone box. He could keep the ball. You know, you could have a game of possession in a telephone box and he wouldn't give the ball away. He was that good. And if Davy Hay, if you're listening intently if you're going to a possession game, you're gutted if you weren't in his team. You're absolutely gutted. Yeah, he technically just probably the best player I've ever played with technically, and I've been lucky enough to play with some really good football players. And this is a boy where 90% of the people that will listen to this will be thinking who. But if you went and watched him, this boy only played with us because he was coming to the tail end of his career.
Right.
You know, this boy had played in La Liga. That tells you everything. So my two in there, as I say, Neely would need to do all his running, but Quino would be the boy that would go and do the magic and supply the front four with the ball.
How excited would you be to see to be playing next to that partnership? What would be the...
Well, what I'd like is I've probably still got, even with no hair, I've got a better hairstyle than Neil McFarlane. That's, to be honest, I'm never going to be as technically good as Francesco, but at least I'm going to still be slightly better than Neil. But no, it'd be a nightmare to play against because you've got one that goes and chases and harasses you and probably wins the ball back, and then you've got the other one that can honestly could see if he was playing these days where you've got no tackling going on really. Mm-hmm. This boy would be a world. This boy in Scottish football, I mean, this boy would be a world beater. This boy, you know, you wouldn't get near him. He really was that good. Well worth a wee look on YouTube or something like that to check him out. He really was that good a football player. He was just and a brilliant guy. And the span, in fact, we were like the United Nations at Livingston that year, you know. And testament to Leash, Davy Hay, and John Robertson. You know, you've got to remember Livingston's first ever year in the SPL. We finished third. We finished behind Celtic and Rangers. You know, I remember meeting a boy for Hearts and Magaluf after we'd won the first division, and we'd all went over there. And this boy, and this time I won't name names, but this boy was so foolish to sell this Hearts player. You know, he was a Hearts captain, and he's been on their programme all the time. The last 3 days the last 3 weeks on BBC. He's retired now and he's doing a bit. So you know the one I'm talking about. Yeah. And you know, his first name's Gary, but I'm not telling you his second name, right? And I remember him saying to us, he bought us all a drink. We thought, oh, you're all right, Ken. And I remember saying to us, I've got you them in, guys, because we'll take 4 bonuses off you next year. Half joking, but half serious. So we played them the last game of the season at Tynecastle and we beat them 3-2 to record their 4th victory over Hearts that year.
Really?
So I think he was told in no uncertain terms as we left the park as well that we thanked him for his drink once again and we thanked him that we had 4. But, you know, for us to finish third in an SPL, that's
remarkable, isn't it? Oh, it's remarkable.
It's unheard of, you know, and unfortunately, Leash being Leash couldn't keep everybody together, and instead he thought he was going to go into bigger and better things. And you know, Leash is brilliant, but that's also his downfall as well, that he can't see the wood for the trees. He couldn't just think, right, third, we're probably certainly over exceeding any expectations there, so let's just try and get a level footing. Leash wanted to replace half of us with superstars. I think the next year they finished 10th or 11th or something like that. You know, right, but Quino was one of the top men that played in that team, so that's my midfield 2, pal.
Brilliant. And playing in front of them in the attacking midfield position, who'd been there?
Again, really difficult. You know, I'm leaving out Paul Hartley. I'm leaving out Davy Bingham. You know, I must have had a knock on the head to leave the 2 of them out. But the 3 I went for are... So one's in it because he's my best mate, and if I didn't put him in it, I'm up against it, innit? You know, so I've got to have one in it for that reason. One's in it because I'd like to think I played a wee bit part in his career due to the fact that I was a big ball breaker towards him. Another one's in it because he's just unbelievable. So I better give him a 3. The first one that's in it, and he's not just in it because he's my mate, but because he's a really good player as well. Will be on the right-hand side, it's Barry Wilson.
Okay.
You know, Baz was haunted. You know, Baz, it didn't matter what Baz done, it seemed to strike gold for him. Baz loved the fact he couldn't tackle. I remember certain times, like, we'd be playing in the first division in particular, and if somebody kicked him, he'd run up to me and say, so-and-so just kicked me, will you get him for me, type thing. You know, it was like being back at school. And I used to go and do it. It wasn't until I retired and I thought the amount of fines and suspensions I had because Barry couldn't go and tackle the boys himself. So, but Baz, his delivery was superb.
Yeah.
When he got his game, he was unplayable at that time. You know, he was strong. We played him on the wide right. He was so good in the air, so he was a nightmare for left backs because we used to play diagonals. As I say, really quick, really good football player and a really good finisher as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
You know, and again, he still picks me up when we go up the road to Inverness when I'm out with him and Charlie Christie. So I've got to keep my bed for a night. So, but no, he's a great pal. In fact, he's my best pal within the game. He's still, in fact, I was on to him earlier. We keep up very regularly. We bump into each other. We have our golf holidays every year and that still. So, you know, Baz will play on the right side. And hence the reason I've got a dog like Neil McFarlane in behind him, because Baz will not track back.
Aye.
You know, if Baz came back into his own half, there was something wrong, pal. So, and I've got to put him in as well because his dad, Bobby, would never forgive me. Because according to Bobby, Barry's the best player that's ever played. So, I noticed that George Best died on the 25th of November and Diego Maradona's died on the 25th of November. So, if Bobby has his way, Barry further down the line will need to die on the 25th of November because that'll make it the hat-trick, pal. That's how high esteem his dad thinks of Barry. But yes, he's a fantastic football player and a fantastic guy. So he'd be wide on the right. The one in behind, I guess what we call the number 10, the false 10, you know, is a guy that I'd like to think, I never made his career. This guy could have had a career, but he was on a slippery slope, and I just clicked with him, and in the sense of football-wise on the park. And I probably, as I say, I was a bit of a ball breaker at him in training. I was a bit of a ball breaker at him in the games, and it's amazing to still see him playing. And it's amazing that he played in the English Premiership after being at Queen of the South and Stephen Dobie. You know, this guy had everything, but he was very close to having nothing. You know, he was overweight, he wasn't fit, he had these moments of magic, but he wasn't a great trainer. You know, and Queen of the South, probably when I first joined, was very part-time-esque. You know, and I remember saying, I thought to the boys, no, you know, we're not being funny, we're better than this. I didn't expect us to make a Scottish Cup final, but we're better than competing ninth in the. Sorry, low battery there.
No, that's fine.
I says we're better than being ninth in the league, and Dobbs then the next season, the season we got to Scottish Cup final, and probably done us the biggest favour in the world that Dobbs went off in the semi-final, because it become a stage where it was just going to be dogged with Aberdeen,
right? And
we were coming on done the business, but Dobbs was our go-to. We would never go to the semi-final if it wasn't been for Dobbs against Dundee in the quarter-final. Your game could be teetering on the brink, nobody on top, and Dobbs just a moment of magic. A moment of magic, and before you knew it, you weren't just 1-0 up, you'd be 3-0 up, and you think, where did that come from? The guy's an amazing player. The guy's far better than what... I can't say he's far better than what he is, because he went and played Swansea, Blackpool, Crystal Palace, you know. But Dobbs... I think the only thing Dobbs will regret in his career at the end is probably that he didn't give himself a chance with Rangers when he was a kid. Yeah, you know, he's a big Rangers man, and you know, and he probably just wishes knew that he'd given himself that wee chance with Rangers as a kid. But none to take out, can't take nothing away from him. He got himself sorted, and I'm so happy for him, because he could always play. We always knew he could play. It was just he needed to know that it just wasn't about playing for 10 minutes a game. It was about eating right. And you look at him now, I don't know where the rest of the Dobbses went, because when I first joined, there was about 3 Dobbs that was about the size of the boy that is just now. So, but no, Dobbs will play in behind, alongside Barry, and you know, in front of the other 2. Another one is another Spanish player, one of the first ones we took for Airdrie, and ended up going to Celtic. We David Fernandez.
Yeah, he was good.
He was just a tramp, an absolute tramp. He probably wore the same boxer shorts for about 3 weeks on end. Nothing matched. He became a Scotsman in the end. You know, he wanted to find out where we were organising nights out and where we were going and what time we were meeting at. And he spoke with a Scottish accent, and he was just fantastic. Not just on the park, but in the dressing room. He was hard as nails. He used to wear his socks down at his ankles, and he would get booted, and he would just spring back up, and he would never argue with anybody. And I don't know if that was because David pretended he could speak his good English when he knew when the taxman was taking an extra pound off him, put it that way. But he just fantastic football player. Because, as I say, him and Quino, if you gave them the ball, you weren't getting it back. They could keep it among themselves for days, and I mean days. They were fantastic. And David, low centre of gravity, you know, a kind of mix between David Silva and Sergio Aguero. And I don't mean that he was as good as them, but what I mean is he had that cuteness of Silva, but he had the aggressiveness and the physique and the bulk of Aguero, and he was a joy to play with. He was a great guy. You know, and I'm playing him wide left, which he would never wanted. He wanted Dobbs' position in behind the striker, but there's no way I could play Dobbs wide left, because there's no way getting Barry back one side, Dobbs back the other side. So, wee Fernandez, superb guy, superb player. So that would be the 3 in behind the striker.
Brilliant. And who would be the man leading the line? Who would be the man that would get you all your goals?
So, striker was the hardest one, because here's one for you. I don't think I've played with very many good strikers.
Right, okay.
I say that a wee bit. And what I mean is, there's nothing that jumps out at me and thinks, got to be him. It's got to be him. I played with some fantastic football players and some really good great strikers in fact. But what I mean is, there's no one that I thought, it's definitely him. So, no wheel come up to Aberdeen, and Snowy, you know, he was struggling a wee bit, injuries and that, but really good player. You know, wee Dargo at Wraith Rovers, Giorgio Boyle, Roddy Grant at St Johnstone earlier on in my career. You know, as I said, Dobbs, Big Sean O'Connor, when we played it, you know, Sean was a dog and done a lot of Dobbs was running from, but I was swithering between 2, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
And one was Didier Garth. Now, everybody will remember Didier Garth when he eventually went to Celtic and he played wing-back for Mark O'Neill's team. Yeah. Didier first come across to Scotland and joined us at Wraith Rovers. And he was a striker. He played right through the middle. Right, and if I remember right, it was Airdrie we played his first game and he scored a hat-trick.
Really?
Right, lightning quick. Absolutely lightning quick. But no heart to play up front, because he played in a league where you didn't have your Kenny Brannigans of this world. He'd bought when the ball's up the other end of the park, etc. And I'm saying that I can only use Kenny's name because Kenny was our assistant manager at Queen of the South, so I mean that in a nice sense. But I thought about Didier, but I'm going to go with a guy that is probably the first guy as a midfielder I actually played football with just with eye contact. And he knew what I was going to do. And we scored so many goals by not even communicating with word of mouth. It was just a look. And it was James Grady. James come down. And I hated James when I played against him. And he hated me because James was one of these strikers that I would boot him, but he would boot me back. He's a hardy wee pup, as James. And I remember I'm coming down to Gretna, and he was a big Celtic man, which didn't sit very well with me either, type thing. So he came down to Gretna and part of that Celtic car with Jamie McQuilkin and Davy Nichols. And when I'm laughing and joking here, we're all laughing and joking dressing rooms about it. But James come in and I thought, personalities here we might clash. Anything but for day one. And probably starting a training match or just a training exercise, and it was just bang. I'd play a pass and the wee man was on it and it was a goal. And I thought, you're the one for me. I could pick slide rule passes, and as I say, I could already see his movement where he was going. And for a midfielder, that's fantastic because it makes your mind up for you.
Yeah.
You're no looking for a pass, the pass is looking for you. So James would make that wee dart, bang, goal, set pieces, free kicks, wee ones round the corner. And actually at Gretna, I ended up scoring a lot of goals because I was able to go and link in with a striker that knew my game. So James would be the one. And by the way, the wee man could fight, and the wee man had a great, because folks say he was only 5'6", 5'7". I tell you what, not very many beat him in the air either. He had a fantastic leap on him for a wee fella, So
yeah.
My striker, probably one that maybe a lot wouldn't have thought it would be James Grady, and I think that would be hell a lot of players I'm leaving out. Paul Sheeran, Scott Severn, Gav Skelton, Paul Hartley, David Bingham, Gary Boland, Philippe Brancoin. I've named it. I could name another 3 or 4 teams, Scott, but tonight
it's tough, isn't it? It's tough to get them just a one team in it. Yeah, as you say, you're leaving out about 30 or 40 players that you would have considered probably brilliant to play alongside.
I never mentioned, Yogi Hughes. I played at Fort, but I never put any Falkirk boys really, and Coyley and boys like that, because I only played there for 5 months. So but at the same time, you'd realise how good some of these boys are. They were fantastic players, and I started at St Johnstone. I've not got very many St Johnstone players in there again because I was young and raw and naive, and I probably didn't realise how I wanted to play football till later on in my career. So it's probably more the boys that I played with later on in my career that I've enjoyed the most. And I think that's not a bad team. If you look,
very good.
That team, I think it'd do quite well.
There's certainly a lot of toughness in it, and they're winning a battle, aren't they?
Well, wouldn't it be right, my team, if you one thing my expectations would be my team is that you get 110%. You don't give that, it ain't good to me. So I've got Barry. Barry's never going to tackle. Dobbs isn't going to tackle, and Quino, we'll let Quino off, but the rest, if I got into a fight, I'd be quite happy to have Alan and boys like that at the back of me. So, but I take it a few of my boys, one of the boys that you thought I had in.
No, I thought it was kind of difficult to kind of think that, but I thought there'd be a lot more. I thought there'd be a lot more players for like Wraith and kind of St Johnstone, just because I kind of obviously coming up early and there was a lot of experience in those teams. I thought there'd be more of them, but again, you can't. Every one of the players deserves absolute credit. They were absolute magnificent players, every single one of them.
And probably, to be honest, the St Johnstone thing, as I say, it was my first time full time, and I probably didn't conduct myself properly at times. I've always liked a beer. I never ever done it at the wrong times. I liked a beer on a Saturday or Sunday after games, and I've always had a wee bit to say about myself. Not in a bad way. I just think if you sit in a corner and you don't say nothing, then discuss it at a tea point. That's no point. You're as well getting things out in the open, and these people know your views and your understandings. And I didn't really particularly like Paul Sturrock as a manager, again, because I've played with managers since, and I heard since that Sturrock's changed and he was a great manager, and I've no doubts about that. I probably didn't realise Sturrock done so much for me till the tail end of my career,
right?
And it gave me an understanding. But at the time when you're 24, 25 and you want to play every week, it's hard to take it when you're not playing.
Definitely.
And there's a lot of these St Johnstone boys. If I'd been with him, these phones kill me. But if I'd been with some of these boys later on in my career, I probably would have liked playing with them a lot more. It's just, there was a different culture in the days, and I'm not going to say bully culture, but there was a different culture. That senior pros probably got away with a wee bit more, and I don't think they looked after younger boys as well as what they look after young boys these days. You know, at the tail end of my career, I'd be going and saying to young boys, look, you can't do that, or if you're going to do it, make sure the manager doesn't find out type thing.
Right.
But I think early days, a lot of boys liked other folk to be the fall guy and a bit the scapegoat. And then at Wraith, if I'm being honest, at Wraith, Wraith was in turmoil at the time. You know, after about 3 months, the club was about going bust, and it just, nothing really went. The greatest thing about Wraith for me is I scored a goal at the home end in a 3-0 New Year's derby game against Dunfermline. You know, and for a Kirkcaldy boy to do that did mean the world to me. And I remember, I thought, I've not had much drink over Christmas and New Year because there's games after games, and I thought, we beat Dunfermline a day, I'm going for that. Because one thing I couldn't do, I could never sign for Dunfermline, I could never play for Dunfermline. Kirkcaldy and Raith Rovers meant too much to me. And so we won 3-0. And I remember going out with all the boys and we met them, and I think I'd one beer, and I was mentally and physically drained. And I thought, you know, but to beat Dunfermline was great for me, but there was nothing really happened in my Raith Rovers career that I thought, when I look back at my teammates, that I go, you're the one for me. Or again, a lot of really good players, but I base it on boys that I've probably been successful with, you know, and I wasn't successful. I wasn't successful at Raith Rovers, so it probably was, you never felt as a team you're successful. So whereas Gretna and Livingston and, you know, even playing St Johnstone, we won the league and stuff like that, you tend to remember Scottish Cup finals with Queen of the South.
Aye.
You know, you tend to remember things like that. So you go back to Livingston, I went back and you had Andy Halliday's and that coming through.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Couldn't even give Andy a mention because Andy was just a kid. It was before he went to Middlesbrough, but I was right at the end of my career, and I couldn't give him a mention because we're playing the third division, and we had me, Robbie Winters, and Jim Hamilton, and we probably could have won that league ourselves. You threw in all the young kids about you, but it wasn't like you were thinking, I seen something there that made them so special. I look at special when we were third in the SPL with a group of guys, you know. So a lot of good players I've not put in, and I've got to be honest, I probably wouldn't be in very many of their teams anyway. So I'm not too disappointed. Again, I got a message from the day. Big Jimmy Thompson, our captain, that scored the second goal in the Scottish Cup final. Myself getting the first. You know, I was our youngest scorer in the Queen of South Scottish Cup final. I think I was 36. Big Jimmy then trumps me 38, 39. So, you know, boys like that, Bob Harris. So, in fact, that whole Queen of South team, do what we've done. Gretna was different because Gretna was money thrown at it.
Yeah.
Queen of the South wasn't it. You know, Queen of the South was a fairy tale. And it was authentic fairy tale. Gretna's was a bit man-made. It was kind of like, right, we'll throw money at, you know, the money we were getting at Gretna, it wasn't the SPL wages, or I'll rephrase it, it wasn't what I was on at Aberdeen, but it wasn't a kick off the arse away for it type of thing. So, you know, you were getting a lot more than a lot of other SPL clubs. So it still felt great, but it didn't feel as good as the Queen of the South one. So that's where the players have come from. I don't know if it's how it got on, but certainly it made me happy watching them, pal.
Brilliant team. Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on, mate. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I've really, really enjoyed it.
No, much obliged. Thank you very much for asking.
Thanks very much, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, Scott. Take care.